All right, hi everybody, it's Mr. Vallejo. Welcome to Marine Biology. Today we're going to take a look at animal fish husbandry, and this is a two-part talk, and this is the first of the two parts. So today let's take a look at the best way to take care of fish. This is called aquarium fish husbandry. Now husbandry is a weird word to me, but it means how you take care of something. So we're taking a look at the procedures on how to take care of aquarium fish. If you haven't already done it, I'd like you to set up your notes so you could take corner notes just like this. You can see that, oh, look at the date. We're already a little behind where we were in 2015. So this is how you would set up your Cornell paper if you're taking Cornell notes. Remember, you take your main notes here. Then after you're done viewing this lecture, what you're going to do is you're going to write 5 Cornell questions in the Cornell column. And don't forget the summary where we would write something like, in this lecture, we learned, and that's what you would do. Okay, so there are 6 principles of aquarium husbandry. And so we're going to take a look at some of those today. First, you got to know something about your water quality. You have to have oxygen in the water for all the living things. That's called aeration. Things need light. You're going to have plants in the aquarium, and they are going to need light because plants need light in order to make food through photosynthesis. Where are you going to put the tank? Well, in our room, they're off on the sides and on the side counters and the laboratory stations, and it's got a nice stable surface. So you've got to have a good, well thought out tank location. And also there's some things that you need to know about tank design that we'll talk about. Stocking rates is a fancy word for saying, well, how many fish do you put in a tank? And we'll talk about that, but the rule of thumb is 1 gallon of water, 1 inch of fish. So if you have a 10-gallon tank, you can have 10 fish this size, or you can have 1 fish this size. And so that's stocking rates. And then we'll take a look at compatibility, probably in the second half of this lecture. All righty, so let's take a look at these one by one. First, how do you get nitrogen into water? Well, the nitrogen occurs through fish food because proteins, as we'll learn a little bit, are one of the 4 components of organic molecules. And so it's one of the categories of organic molecules. And proteins are made up of amino acids, and amino acids all have, as part of the amino group, they have nitrogen. So this nitrogen is in this fish food, and if you overfeed your fish, you're going to get protein that needs to be broken down, and then you get nitrogen. Well, what happens is if you have too much nitrogen, then that turns into ammonia. Ammonia is excreted by fish, and it's also the extra food if you overfeed your fish. There are ways to get rid of this ammonia by bacteria, but we need to have that balance. And if you have too much extra food, you're going to have too much ammonia. So the source of ammonia in a fish tank is the fish naturally are going to get rid of their waste, because ammonia is a dangerous waste product inside living things. It is in humans too. Humans instead, though, what they do is they take an ammonia and another ammonia and put them together and make a chemical called urea. And then urea is processed and it turns in, it is mixed with some other stuff. And that's how you get the waste product known as urine. Well, fish are a little bit different. What they're going to do is they're swimming in their environment that has their waste products in it. So that you need to be careful with the ammonia. Birds do it differently. Seabirds are going to make what's called uric acid, similar to this, but it requires a lot less water than the production of urine. So all these animals are trying to get rid of their ammonia. And we are too, and so are fish, but ammonia is dangerous in your system. Because if you have ammonia in your tank, and too much ammonia. If fish are left too long swimming in ammonia, of course, obviously, they're going to die. So what happens in your fish tank and what happens in nature is there are two different types of bacteria. One is called Nitrosomonas, and Nitrosomonas, what it'll do is Nitrosomonas will take, and here's a picture of it here, Nitrosomonas will take that ammonia and turn it into nitrites. Now check the second half of that word, nitrites. Nitrites are not really valuable either, and in fact, nitrites are also a waste product. But the nice thing about this is Nitrosomonas do have the first half of the job. They take the ammonia and turn it into nitrites. And then another bacteria called Nitrobactor is going to take those nitrites and turn those nitrites into a totally different chemical called nitrates. Nitrates are good. Plants need nitrates. When you get fertilizer for your lawn, if you have a lawn or you have a small potted plant in your apartment, you have to give it fish food, or not fish food, plant food. And that plant food is usually ammonium nitrate. So nitrate is something that plants need. And so the Nitrobacter do the second half. They change the nitrites into nitrates. So the first bacteria are called denitrifying bacteria. They take the ammonia and they change it into nitrites. And then what the nitrites are, what the Nitrobacter does is take the nitrites and turns it into nitrates. So the nitrites are turning into the nitrates by the Nitrobacter, which are a type of denitrifying bacteria. Here's a graphic that shows you, some of the numbers on fertilizer bags. You'll see something like that, but you see that first number talking about the nitrogen in the mixture in the fertilizer, and so some types of plants will need more nitrogen than others. So that's a little bit about waste product, but when we take a look at water quality in your fish tank, you got to know where your water comes from and how often you have to have some kind of regular maintenance where you change your water. But how much water? This is how people who have fish tanks at home will usually kill their fish. So let's be careful with that. You also will learn about filtration in a later lecture, and also the temperature of the water, and for fish that we'll be keeping in our aquaria, they need to be about 70 degrees or so, which in Los Angeles is fairly, it can happen, but usually you also need a heater in your fish tank just in case the temperature drops down lower, as it does several months of the year. So when you have water, what you got to do is you got to let it stand. You got to get the water from your sink and then let it stand for 12 hours. I usually say to you guys, fill it up on a Friday and let it sit till Monday. You can also put an air pump on it, and that'll help stir it up and release the gases. You can also add a chemical which will neutralize the ammonia, and that's called AquaSafe is the one I usually buy if I'm going to buy one. But I don't usually buy one because it's just simple enough to take the water and let it sit. So these are the directions for a marine tank, which are a little bit different. You got to add salt to your water, and then use a hydrometer to make the specific gravity at 1.023, just like it is in the ocean. Now, I was saying this is how people mess up their fish, because what they do is, if you have even a fish bowl like this, you don't need a filter, because what's going to happen is the bacteria that you have even on the sides, and if you have rocks at the bottom, the bacteria will be living on the rocks. They'll be taking care of the nitrites and nitrates, but even nitrates without a plant in here, the nitrates are going to build up. So what you got to do is you got to change your water. Now you can change your water by just taking a cup or a tube and siphoning it out. or you could lift it up and pour it over the sink if you want to. But here's the tricky part. You should do it about once a week, and you should only change, it's the most important part, you should only change about 10% of the water. Because if you change all your water because it looks too dirty, you're going to kill all your bacteria and then your fish will die. So only change about 10% of the water each time. For us, because we have 10-gallon tank, that's just about a gallon. So every week you change a gallon of water. Now here's what a filter does. A filter removes solid waste and removes not just the big chunks, but it removes the harmful chemicals. Also, some bacteria will live on here, also on the rocks. And so that's what a filter does. And then here's 3 types of mechanical filtration, or 3 types of filtration. The first is mechanical, taking out the big chunks from your water. Then the filter will also treat it chemically. There's a chemical in it called activated carbon. And those are like little teeny black rocks. And what they do is they absorb things like chlorine, ion, and get this, nitrates. You remember nitrates are the bad one, or the good one that plants need. But if you have too much of this, then it becomes too much of a good thing. And then you also have a biological filtration. You'll see that the filter, if I can go back to the picture, has this floss right there, kind of a, that's what they call it, filter floss. But it has all kinds of nooks and crannies, and the bacteria can live there if there's not enough room for them to live on the rocks. Then what you gotta do is you gotta clean the filter with water from the tank, because if you just take water from your sink and you blast it in there, first you'll blast all the bacteria off, but also there are chemicals in our water that are used to purify the water so we can drink it that would kill the bacteria. So we want to try not to use much new water because of those chemicals like chlorine I have listed here. Another thing is that some cities, like where I live in Simi Valley, they're about to add fluorine to the water. Fluorine is the stuff that's in toothpaste, that works to keep your teeth healthy. Well, in many cities, they add fluorine to the water. For many years, they didn't. In Los Angeles, I think they do. I have to check on that, but I'm pretty sure they add fluorine to the water. It helps little kids have good teeth. But those chemicals will mess with the bacteria. All right, so those are some comments for today, and so those are some of the principles of aquarium husbandry that we're covering. We'll take a look at the next in the next part, for part 2. So we're gonna stop this sharing of the screen and then stop the video and ask you